Alright, so today I'm going to be making a DIY sun visor reflector for my windshield, my driver, and passenger side windows. So I'm going to show you guys how I'm doing it, but I'll just explain it sort of real quick. So what I did was I got some scrap pieces of cardboard from work that are pretty big. And so what I'm going to do is the outside, I measured the exterior dimensions of the front windshield and the driver window, and I figured the driver window is just a mirror of the passenger window. And so I took the rough dimensions of it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that scrap cardboard and I'm going to mock up sort of a template based off of those dimensions, and then trim them down to size and then shove them in here. And if they fit pretty well, then I'll mark off the template onto this roll of Reflectix insulation I bought. Reflectix, as far as I know, is the brand, and so I'll just have a link to that stuff below. It'll just be an Amazon link. But basically I measured the outside just because the exterior dimensions are going to be a little bit bigger than what's on the inside, just because of like some I can't think of the name right now, like some of these plastics and the headliner and stuff like that. So I'd rather it be a little bit too big, so then I can trim down to the correct size, especially for the windshield. So what I did was I measured the bottom length of the windshield, the top length of the windshield, because they're slightly different, and then also the height of the windshield. And so I'm doing the outside measurements because they're sort of like a curve, and then it comes down to a smaller size. And so I'm basically measuring it that way so that I can just cut it out more tightly on the inside, because I'd rather it be too big than too small. And then for this side window, basically what I'm doing is I noticed this is basically a 90-degree angle, and so I measured the top and the bottom again, but I'm going to have this straight edge back. So the bottom I have the measurement, top I have the measurement, and the overall height is the same as the windshield at 17 inches. So what I'll do is I'll keep on the piece of the cardboard, I'll keep this straight, I'll keep these both 90 degrees. So I'm basically going to keep the length of the bottom, cut out a rectangle first, and then on the top part I'll cut what this short dimension is, I'll measure it, and then I'll just cut the remainder off. So say this is like a 2-inch gap, like the bottom is 2 inches longer than the top, which might be an exaggeration. I'll just take the 2 inches from up here, and then I'll just cut it at an angle to match the bottom, and I'll show you guys that process with the cardboard. And I'll take the cardboard back out here and I'll fit them up against it, and I'll cut any excess, and once I get a good fit, that's when I'll take those cardboard templates, put it onto the Reflectix, and then from there I'll mark it out with like a Sharpie, and then I'll cut it out and bring it back out here and see the fit, and then from there it'll be done once it fits right and fits well. Also with the Reflectix, the reason I guess I'm using cardboard templates is because it's free. You can do the same thing with, like, you know, several pieces of paper taped together, or like old newspaper or something. For me, I felt like cardboard was easier because I have access to it. It's free, but also it's stiffer, so it holds up right better, versus paper is kind of flimsy. So yeah, and like I said, the driver and passenger side windows are just mirrors of each other, so I'm only making one template for the driver side, and then I'll just cut another piece of the same shape for the passenger side. And I'm not doing the rear windows right now just because I have them tinted, so I'm not super worried about that. But also it's just easier to cut out these windows for now, and I don't really see myself using these rear ones, just because these ones I'll put up during the summer, like, you know, right as I get to work. After I park, I'll put them up, versus these rear ones I already know I'm not going to want to deal with taking them in and out all the time, and my car's a mess right now because I've been traveling and my dog sits back here. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to be doing this window, the windshield, and the driver, and I'm also considering possibly selling them. So if you're interested in a set, let me know, I guess, and I'll write you back if I am doing that. I'm not 100% sure yet. So yeah, I'm gonna go inside. I've already taken the measurements. I'll say the measurements for the FJ once I'm in there, because I have them written down. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. All I remember is the height is 17 inches. So I'll probably cut just a little bit extra and make it like 17 1/4, just because I can always trim down. I can't necessarily add on as easily. And so I'm going to do 17 1/4 for height wise, and then the only thing is length wise, I'll have to change it for all of these. But yeah, I noticed height wise, all 3 windows are very similar, all roughly 17 inches tall. So I'll be right back. All right, so this is the piece out of cardboard that I've cut out. It's approximately 33 inches wide and 17 inches tall. And I measured the top of the window's length is about 30 inches. So what I did was, this whole piece of cardboard is 33 inches, and this line right here is measured to 30. And so I just connected these 2 points, and I'm assuming that's going to be relatively close to the shape of the FJ's window. So what I'm going to do is, now I'm just going to cut along this line right here, and I'm going to go test fit it on the FJ. All right, it's a little windy out, so I apologize if you can't hear very well. But this is my first cut piece that I'm going to test out and try and put on the window and see how it fits. I'll just put it in real quick, but I definitely noticed I cut this edge a little bit straighter than this edge on the top, but I oversized it just a hair, I believe. So we're going to try and put it in here and see how well it fits, and I'll show you guys that as soon as I put it in. So I'll be right back. All right, so I definitely did cut it too tall. Sitting in just a little bit, but I noticed there's a couple dimensions that are off, so I need to go just a little bit longer on the front. At this point, it's literally just sort of taking your time and seeing what you need to do, so I need to cut it shorter. And I'm sure, actually, now that I look at it, I probably should have measured out of back here instead of the outside, but that's something you guys can do better than me. But the bottom length I'm seeing is actually pretty good, but I also noticed that this isn't straight up and down, so I'll have to figure that out and slightly change this up. And so I'm gonna go make another template that's more correct. I might trim this down a little bit actually while I'm out here. I brought a pair of scissors with me, so I might trim this to be relatively straight and see how well I can get that to fit. And then from here, what I'll do is I'll just take a measuring tape and try and measure how much of a difference this is on the back, measure what the difference is in the front, and then I'll take this back, basically retrace this, and then add those gaps to it, and so it'll be more perfect. You guys obviously don't have to put in this much detail into it. I just want to do it so I get an exact fit, and this is just my process. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this. It's just how I'm doing it, so I'm just trying to show you guys my process. All right, so I got the right height cut in now. I had to trim this corner to make it fit. So this point is just or this corner right there, I don't know if the camera actually caught it or not. At this point it's just sort of a measuring and then refitting things. And so what I did was I measured the gap distance here, because this is the outermost point, and so I marked 2 lines on it so I knew where I would have to mark going across. I measured the distance. I'm a 1/2 inch short right here, and so what I'll do on the next template is I'm going to put this on another piece of cardboard, and this is probably just overcomplicating it, but like I said, this is just how I'm doing it. You guys, I'm sure, will think of a smarter and faster way to do this, but when I put this down, I'll just put out a straight line and I'll add another 1/2 inch here, and I'll cut that way instead, down and across. And this gap right here, I measured, is also a 1/2 inch difference. And so I'm gonna go make another template using this and a couple more measurements, and I'll be back. All right, so to show you what I did next, I took that other template that I showed you guys that I already made, found the differences. This part might get just a little confusing, but basically what I did was I knew that there was a 1/2 inch gap difference in the rear. So I took this template on another piece of cardboard, put it 1/2 inch away from the edge of the new piece that I'm using, or the other piece. It's just the other half of the same piece, but so I took that this is, once I line it up there, that's a little bit more than ½ inch just because I can always cut a little off. And so this is that gap that I showed you guys on the top of the rear of the driver's side window. And where I punched these two sort of holes to mark the ½ inch gap there, I drew a straight line out, added ½ inch, and I connected this corner to it and this corner to it. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna basically I'm gonna cut out that line, and hopefully this will be an exact fit. All right, I've got it just about perfect now. So I noticed this part, depending on how you want to do it, I'm reconsidering the way I did it. So the way I did it originally, it's just going to fit over the window, but I'll probably just keep following this taper on the actual, when I cut it on the Reflectix, I'll probably just follow this instead. I thought about that. But other than that, I think it's ready to go. So what I'll do now is I'll basically use this template and trace it onto the Reflectix, and then cut out the Reflectix, and then come back out here and test fit it, and we should be good to go. So I'll make 2 of those, one for the driver, one for the passenger side, and then we'll do the windshield up next, but I'll probably do that tomorrow just because today I've also been doing other things while I've been doing this, like laundry and stuff. So honestly though, this doesn't take too long, going the whole back and forth thing and just, you know, making sure every dimension is as close as you can possibly get to this is why it's taking so long. So if you don't want to be a super perfectionist like I have been, then this will be a lot faster. But I'm just trying to get it to basically as close as I can get. And some of these angles aren't what I assumed they were the first time. And so now that I have this template that actually fits right, I'm going to go, like I said, retrace it on, and then I'll cut it out, and hopefully it'll fit perfectly. All right, so to do this inside windshield, I'm actually doing it a little bit differently than I did the windows. So basically what I'm going to do with this one is, instead of using a cardboard template the first time, I'm going to tape a bunch of pieces of notebook paper together to basically cover the entire outside of the windshield, just because I don't have a great way to sort of match this curvature. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to tape a bunch of pieces of paper together big enough to cover the whole windshield, and then I'm going to put a flashlight in here and I'm going to trace the shadow of it, if that makes sense. And so this is also probably complicating it, but I'm trying to get as close of a fit as possible right now. And I purposely waited till it's a little darker. I'm actually about to eat dinner, so I'm going to have to go do that and then come back out here to do it. But it's not super hard, just a little time consuming. So I'll have to tape a bunch of pieces of paper together. I'll tape it to the outside of the car, and then basically point a flashlight at the windshield and start tracing it to make it as exact of a fit as possible. So yeah, that's the plan. All right, so I have my paper laid out, and the way I had to do it was kind of weird. So basically I would take one piece, stack it on another piece. They're about 19 inches high, and the reason behind that is because if you look at the way a windshield curves, even though it's 17 inches wide across the whole thing, it has a curve to it. It curves sort of, I guess, this way, but it also sort of revolves around a point, if that sort of makes sense. And so if you were to do this 17 inches tall the entire way and flat, and then do it exactly the width of the windshield, it wouldn't work. It's kind of hard to explain, but the way I'm doing this is there's 4 pieces. They're perfectly aligned like this. And if you notice, I lined them up all at the red lines. What I did was the 2 center pieces are together, and then on the side I step up one, step up one, step up one, step up one, and same with this. And I did them 19 inches tall, so when I wrap it around the windshield, it should be able to cover the entire windshield, and then I can trace it out from there. If you were to do this perfectly rectangular, it wouldn't fit on the windshield because of the 2 curves the windshield has. The curve that follows the body, and the curve that follows the body vertically, if that sort of makes sense. And then the curve that follows the body going this way. So you have sort of 2 curves that you have to account for, and so I'm hoping that this is gonna fit. And so we're gonna go put this on right now, and I'll show you guys how it fits. Alright, so that sort of taper curve thing that I did actually worked out pretty well. So as you can see, it covers the entire windshield. The crease is right there, and so on and so forth. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a flashlight on the inside of the car and just use a marker and trace the outline of the shadow. And I'm going to move the flashlight around and adjust it accordingly, just so I can make sure it gets sort of as close to the edges as possible. So yeah, this is probably a way overcomplicated way to do it. If you have like a really big sheet of paper, you can probably just roll it over the top of the windshield and do it that way. But this is the way I'm doing it because I don't have a big sheet of paper. And so yeah, so I'm just gonna toss that flashlight on the inside and sort of start tracing the edges. You can also just cut it out to a similar shape to the windshield. That would work too, but it just shifts a lot the way I'm doing it. And so instead of cutting it, I'm gonna use a light, trace it out, and then cut it from there. Now I've got the windshield traced out, kind of hard to see, but just note that depending on the angle of the light, it'll also change how the light comes out on here. So what I did was I just basically try to move the light in as I started doing sections. So like after I did that, I would point the light straight at that corner, and then point the light straight at that edge, straight at that corner, straight at that corner, sort of in the center there. And then I just started connecting the dots as best as I can. So now I'm gonna take this inside, cut this out to that shape. I'll probably bring it back out here, put it over the windshield on the inside, see how well it fits, make any adjustments, and then put it onto a piece of cardboard just to see how well that fits as well. You guys don't have to take this many steps. I just want to be as precise as I can, like I said earlier. You could probably just honestly do this within the first few tries if you buy like a roll of Reflectix and just sort of cut it out. But this is how I'm doing it. I'm trying to get as an exact fit as possible. The thing about the Reflectix is that it can sort of crunch in just a little bit, so if it's not an exact fit and it's ever so slightly oversized, that's probably a good thing, because then it's almost like a compression fit into that. So I'll probably oversize it a little bit, but I still want to try and get it as close as possible to look good, just because I want to. So if there's a more efficient way to do this, please let us know in the comments. This is just the way I sort of thought of real quick. So yeah, and so far it seems to be working pretty well. Not perfectly, but pretty well. Alright, this is it cut out. So it's kind of hard to see, but there's a slight curve that goes down and then back up, and same with the bottom. And these lines are by no means perfect. I cut just a little bit bigger on the outside of the lines if I could. Not the perfect cut, but these lines are also not perfect either. So now I'm going to go in and put this on the inside of the car and see how well it fits. Alright, so I was just out here, I rolled it up a little bit. I did just test fit it on the inside of the windshield and it fits pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this onto a piece of cardboard. When I put this on the inside, it was very flimsy, which I expected, but I just basically held it in certain places and then sort of spread it across to make sure it fit pretty well. It was just a little bit big, which is what I expected, since I cut it a little bit big. So I'm going to cut a little bit off closer to the lines, and then I'll trace that onto a piece of cardboard, cut out a piece of cardboard, and then put it in the car. But I'm actually going to do that part tomorrow because it is just about midnight here for me, and I have work at I have to get up for work around 6 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and go shower and finish this project out tomorrow. Day after tomorrow, I am actually picking up another FJ Cruiser that I was able to get for a decent price, so I'll have another video coming out on that soon. But I am going to a Nissan dealership actually to pick up another FJ Cruiser that's bone stock. So like I said, I'll have another video. That'll be my third FJ, but unlike my second one, this one's got a good frame, the one I'm picking up. This one also has a good frame. This one has been in my family since brand new in 2008. I'm the second owner, so yeah. But second one, I'm not sure how many owners there were. I have another video on that one of when I first bought it. That one's been parked since, just because the frame is not in any way safe to drive. So what I'm going to be doing with that one is I'm actually eventually going to frame swap it, like I said in that video. And this third one I'm going to pick up, I'm going to be taking it home and storing it in Colorado. I'm right now out in Nebraska for an internship, so that's completely unrelated to this, but I'll be going back to South Dakota in the fall for college, and I will be taking this car back with me, and I will also have the E30. But for now, I'll get back to this tomorrow, and it'll just all be one video for you guys. So once I have that done and in cardboard, I'll update you guys on how well that fits, and then I'll cut that into a Reflectix piece as well as the 2 other windows, and I'll show you guys the fitment on those as well. Alright, I retraced that piece of paper that I cut out onto a piece of cardboard, so I'm going to be using my knife. This is a Benchmade. It's actually, I really like it because it is actually a prototype. So I scored this luckily through my uncle. He doesn't work at Benchmade, he just happened to get it. He had it. So anyway, I'm going to be using this prototype box cutter sort of thing from Benchmade to cut this out. So obviously when you're working with tools, be careful, don't cut yourself, all of that stuff. Yeah, so I'm going to cut this out real quick, and then I'll go and test fit this into my car, see how well it fits, and I'll be back. Alright, unfortunately I forgot to show this part, but basically what I did is I overlaid this onto a roll of Reflectix, and I used a dry erase marker. And the reason I use a dry erase marker is because it actually comes right off of this stuff. So like if I used a Sharpie, I think it'd stay, but like if I marked that, it just wipes right off. So this way it wouldn't leave any marks or anything like that. So I just used a Sharpie. I used a dry erase marker. I marked it out and then I just cut it out. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and test fit it in the car. So I will be right back. All right, and there it is. I still need to trim the front one a little bit more, but other than that, it's good to go. As you can see.